Chapter 5 review. So number 1, this is the parent function f of x equals, now it's a square root, so it's half a rainbow, so it's just a square root of x. So it's the parent function of f of x equals square root of x. Number 2, it's kind of makes like that S shape. We see the domain is all real numbers, meaning all x's. So this is our cube root function, so cube root of x. So knowing that, look at number 3. Given the graph, identify the following. So number 1, is this an even root or an odd root? So it's even, it's a square root function like above. Okay, so remember with square roots, you're not allowed to have negatives inside the square root as your final answer. And so that's why it's only partial here. So now we need to write the equation. So we have to know the general equation, y equals a square root of x, and then something, x minus h plus k. So the h is just how it's shifted left or right, and then the k is up or down. So notice it's a negative h, so it's shifted to the left 4. So we know that it would be left 4, so it's going to be a positive and 4 inside. Now the a value, it's not stretched any. So if you look at the parent function, it just goes up 1, right 1, up 1, right 3. And this one does the same thing, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 3. So therefore the a value is just 1, and you don't necessarily have to write it, but it could be there. So this is g of x, the transform function is g of x equals the square root of x plus 4, because it's left 4, so positive, and then a minus 3. Domain has to do with our x's. So if you look at the x value, the negative 4, so look at the graph, we notice that x is negative 4, then negative 3, negative 2, and 1, and so forth. It's going to the right. So therefore, we can say x is greater than or equal to negative 4. Range has to do with the y value. So the y value here is negative 3. So therefore, y, notice it's going up, right? It's slow, but it is going up. So that means it's going to be greater than or equal to negative 3. Then just notice how the x are connected here and the y is connected here as well. So for this next example, even is also an even one. It's square root. And so our equation is g of x. So it's shifted right 1. It's not stretched any because it's up 1, right 1. So therefore it is the square root of x. Right 1 is minus 1 inside and a minus 2. Domain is our x's again. So x is going to mean it's going to the right. So it's greater than or equal to 1, right? The numbers are getting larger than 1. It's going to the right. The range, therefore, is going up, right? So you have negative 2, 1, and so forth. It's going up, but slowly. So y is greater than or equal to negative 2. For this next example, notice the graph looks like a sideways S. So when we see that, we know it's a cube root. It's an odd index, cube root specifically. And then so notice that it's stretched. So normally it's up 1, right 1. In this case, it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, or down 4, left 1. So that 4 tells us it's stretched vertically by 4. So our a value is going to be 4. So therefore, this is going to be 4 cubed root, and then it's right 1, so x minus 1 on the inside, and then minus 2 on the outside. And then, of course, our g of x here. Now, the domain, notice that it goes left forever and right forever, or down forever and up forever. So with these graphs, it's all real numbers. All real numbers for the domain and the range. It doesn't stop at any point. So all real numbers. So letter number 6, if we look at here, so it is stretched as well, right? Instead of up 1, right 1, it's up 2, right 1. So it's vertically stretched by 2. So we can write g of x. We know it's an odd or cube root. So it's stretched by 2, cube root of x. So minus 2. So that means it's a positive 2 because it's left 2. And down 4, minus 4. So the domain and range, again, are both all real numbers as well. Number 7, write 8 to the 5/3 in radical form. So remember that the denominator is the nth root. That's what goes in the square root here, right in that little v part. And then 8, it goes in the radicand inside. And 5, the numerator, just stays on top. Okay, so it's going to be out here. So it's cube root of 8 over 5. And we can simplify cube root of 8. Cube root of 8 is 2 times 2 times 2, and we need 3 of them to be perfect. So therefore, it's just 2 to the 5th power. Remember, 2 to the 5th power is 2 times 2 times 2. 5 times, right? So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 32. Number 8, given square root of x, write a rule for g, given the transformation. So it's reflected in the x-axis. So reflected in the x-axis. So that means a negative in front of the square root of x. Then vertically stretched by 3. So then we multiply 3 to everything that's there, and that all that's there is the negative root x, so it's negative 3. Then it says right 2, so that's inside. Right 2 inside the radical. Right means a, not positive, but a negative 2. And then last is up 5, so it's plus 5. So we did the reflection and vertically stretch first, so there's nothing to distribute. So we can write our final function as negative 3 square root of x minus 2 plus 5. So find the inverse of f of x equals negative 1/5 x minus 1. So the very first step is you always change f of x to y. So y equals negative 1/5 x minus 1. Then you switch the roles of x and y. So x equals negative 1/5 y minus 1. Then we solve for y. Now the very first step, what you want to do, because we're trying to isolate the y's, let's add 1 to both sides first. So we have x plus 1 equals negative 1/5 y. Now to isolate the y, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply by negative 5. So the negative 5 will cancel out that 1/5 here. So multiply by negative 5 to both sides. Make sure the parentheses are there, really important. So you distribute. So you get negative 5x minus 5 equals, this right side cancels, to just y. So of course you rewrite it as g of x equals negative 5x minus 5. So now let's graph. So I'm going to graph g of x first. We start at the y-intercept of negative 5. And then our slope is negative 5 over 1 or positive 5 over negative 1. So I can't go down, right? There's no room for me here. So I can go 5, up 5, left 1, up 5, left 1, up 5, left 1. And there is my g of x. So remember the top is the rise over run. So positive means up, negative means down. And then positive 1 means right, negative 1 means left. Okay, just as a reminder of how to graph. Now let's graph the f of x. So we start at negative 1. And the slope is negative 1 over 5 or positive 1 over negative 5, right? Negative over a positive is negative. Positive over negative is negative, so that's still the same. So that means I can go down 1, right 5. Or I can go up 1, left 5. And then here is my graph. So that is my f of x, so important to label. Now remember, our line of symmetry passes through the origin. It's the equation y equals x. So it starts at 0, 0, and it goes up 1, right 1, right? So it's just a diagonal line. And notice that our 3 lines will intersect right there at that point, right? It needs to intersect on that line of reflection.